exactly what can happen even when you have decided very intentionally and made that internal decision about who it is that you're actually going to be. You do not feel unsure and you are not experimenting. You have chosen an inner position and you are actively trying to live from that every single day in your day to day life. And yet, sometimes a part of you still knows it does not feel secure. So it'll probably look like things will settle for a little while and then something will happen again. A conversation will take place, a delay, a reaction, something that you were not expecting. And this is when you start to notice yourself becoming more mentally involved again, focusing so much on trying to hold that state, hold that identity that you've decided that you've stepped into, and this is who you're going to be, and this is the way you're going to live your life. And it can be really subtle, so it doesn't always feel like everything is just collapsing and falling apart. This is the problem, but it can just feel like a little bit of insecurity. So what I find usually follows is confusion, because from your point of view at this point, think about it. You've made the decision, you stepped into this new identity, and you feel like that decision should be enough. And that is what can lead to the confusion, because confusion is often the first signal that wavering. Now, wavering is just like wobbling. Wavering has already begun, even if nothing really dramatic is changing in the outside world. Now, for a long time, I once thought that once I'd made the clear internal decision, like you have, the hard part was done, because I just believed that the clarity would stabilize everything on its own and with all the knowledge that I had. And for a while, it felt like that had become true, and that was what was working, and that was how life was going on. But as things began to move, I would feel really settled internally. And then I would remember thinking, okay, I'm done. This has landed. I'm moving in the right direction. Everything's working. Then something would happen. I would have a conversation with someone that I didn't like. I would feel a silence or rejection, and reactions in my body would be coming up that didn't line up with that decision I'd made. And I'd notice myself begin to tighten internally, trying to hold the state, trying to hold the identity, and trying so hard to stay there, to stay where I thought I should be, where the decision had been made. And that was the moment I hadn't seen before, because the moment I started trying to hold it was the moment I was already out of the state. But at the time, I couldn't see that. And what changed wasn't the decision itself, but my relationship to it. So the position had shifted from something I was living from into something I was trying hard to maintain. This is the exact pattern that I see time and time again, both in my own journey with the clients I work with and every single day in the Skool community. Not beginners, not people who haven't decided, people who are so deeply engaged with this work at such a deep level. But it's so frustrating because you can still find your position, your state, your identity does not hold no matter what you do. Now, what became clear to me is that the wavering, the wobbling itself, was the issue, not the decision. In this video, I'm going to be explaining to you what wavering and wobbling actually means and why it's the thing that takes you out of the state, out of the identity, even when you believe what you're doing is correct. Because once you can see the wavering clearly, it will stop feeling so mysterious and it will start feeling precise, and you can do something about it. Now, most people I've found start to interpret wavering as a problem with themselves. They assume they've lost the state, they've weakened the assumptions, or they failed to persist or be dedicated in the right kind of way. So they naturally respond by trying to manage it, like talking about it, analysing what's happened, trying to work out what it means, what they're doing wrong. But this isn't actually where the issue lies. What's important to see is this rarely feels dramatic. So you won't necessarily feel like you're spiraling out of control. You might just start questioning and adjusting and renegotiating, making small internal corrections that they probably feel really sensible, like the right thing to do in the moment. But that is enough to start shifting the position away from the identity of the wish fulfilled. Now, the key thing to know is that this shift out of the state happens before any conscious emotions start appearing. So wavering and wobbling, it's never preceded by "I don't believe anymore." It's preceded by "I need to handle this." And it's usually around this point that people will find their way into my Skool space, like you, my free Skool community, Manifest Like Neville, because you're realizing that understanding and knowledge alone are not enough to hold things together. Now, wavering, this is what takes you out of the state. It's the moment you stop living from that wish fulfilled and you start responding to what's happening in front of you in your reality. It happens because, of course, you're human and life's always going to present different circumstances, conversations, delays, triggers. What matters is what internally happens when these circumstances arise, when they start appearing in your reality. Because when you start checking and adjusting things again and explaining and reassessing, you have to realize you're no longer occupying the state of the wish fulfilled. You've shifted from being the one who's decided into being the one who's responding again. And it's this subtle, tiny shift, although small, it's the part that changes the position that you start to create from again. And this is often why wavering feels responsible rather than reactive, because it can feel like you're being thoughtful, you're being realistic, you're doing all of the right things, and it shows up in such ordinary ways that it's so easy to miss. So, rereading messages, replaying conversations, preparing for outcomes that you claim you're not actually expecting, but how much are you actually thinking about those things not working out? And the crucial part is the moment you begin to notice yourself preparing to take some kind of logical 3D action, checking and responding, instead of just realizing and assuming the identity has already moved. Once them thoughts have come up and you're doing that, this is the awareness that starts to give you the power. Now, it's really important to know that knowing what wavering is and what it does to your state, to your wish fulfilled, to your manifesting, does not mean your system automatically knows how to interpret it. Because awareness, although it's fantastic, it does not automatically mean you know how, your system knows how to return back to the state, back to the identity. Let's be clear, because returning is not about forcing yourself to feel different or trying to just pretend that these reactions have not happened. Returning to the state means reoccupying the wish fulfilled, not calming yourself down first. And this can be the big change that you need to make. It's about deliberately bringing yourself back into the state, using imagination, using your breath, using your affirmations. Most people have never been taught how to do that. And when I started to learn how to do this, it's such a game changer, because when the wavering appears, rather than staying with it, instead of correcting it instantly, people tend to go back into their head, replaying the conversations, thinking about the circumstances, talking through what has just happened with other people, trying to understand it, trying to justify it, trying to decide what it means about their work and what they need to do differently with their manifesting. And we believe that when we're doing this, we are processing through it. But what we're actually doing is reinforcing the movement out of that wish fulfilled state again. And over time, this makes the state feel very fragile. It's why it works briefly, but it doesn't hold. Returning actually works because you're returning before you react, and then you're restoring the position first. So everything you do after that is from that wish fulfilled identity. The regulation, the emotional settling, these all come after. This is exactly the gap the Reset Mastermind exists to address. It gives you the 7-step framework, the right structure, because you don't need more knowledge. You don't need more teachings. You need the right structure to follow on a day-to-day basis. And that's exactly what the Reset Mastermind was designed for, to walk away with a 30-day plan, knowing exactly what to do to bring your manifestations into your reality. So when you waver and when you wobble, what do you do? First of all, you need to connect back to your end scene, to your movie scene, to the version of that identity that you've created. So take a few deep breaths, close your eyes, let the breath out, reconnect back to yourself. Use your imagination to reconnect with that end scene, with that movie scene, with that version of you, that future version of you that you're creating with, that you're connecting with during your routines, during your rituals. Find affirmations, use your breath to bring you back. As soon as you bring yourself back, the spiraling stops. Your brain won't do two things at once. It will connect with that future you again. And then anything you do from that position will reinforce that state. So it doesn't matter if circumstances have made us react. Our job, our human job, is to train ourselves back to the wish fulfilled state time and time again. Now, when I'm first teaching my clients to do this, you can sometimes have to do it like 100 times a day. But over time, it will become less and less and less, and it will just be normal to naturally Pause, take your breaths, use whatever tools work for you, and bring yourself back to your wish of your state fulfilled. Already, hit subscribe and hit the bell so that you get notified for my weekly YouTube videos.